What's up, internet? It's me, Jake Coburn, and you are listening to another episode of the Quarantine Sessions podcast. I began to record episodes for this podcast at the beginning of the year 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic, and the inspiration behind these podcasts was to provide a platform for the pillars and leaders of my community to share their voice and to help construct an inspiring narrative for people in this time of crisis when a need for the upliftment of the spirit has been at its most urgent. This podcast centers around themes of art, creativity, spirituality, and psychedelics. And the incredible people I've had conversations with are all people who have bravely stepped outside of the conventional way of thinking and the conventional way of being and have transcended the matrix of the default reality, living life on their own terms. They are all people I respect deeply, and it has been an amazing opportunity and a privilege to speak to and learn from them. Most of these podcasts have been recorded live through Instagram, which is a new and somewhat experimental medium to conduct podcasts. I truly hope you enjoy this podcast and continue to tune in for future episodes. It's really a labor of love on my part. And thank you so much again for listening. Without further ado, here's the show. This episode today is with Olivia Curry. Olivia is a good friend of mine, and she is a powerful digital visionary artist. We spoke about digital art, about lucid dreaming, and her love and fascination with cats. It was a long conversation that spanned many subjects, and for those of you who listened to its entirety, you are one of my marathon listeners, and I salute you. I salute you for your dedication to gleaning all of the different little pearls of wisdom that we buried in this conversation. So, without further ado, here is this episode. I hope you enjoy.
Hey.
What's up?
Nothing. Just still waking up somewhat. I'm trying to get this thing set up.
Are you doing like an Instagram live or something?
No, I just have it on a, wait, what?
I'm just joking.
I was like, isn't that what we're doing?
Pretty much what we're doing.
Okay.
What's up, Claire? Claire says hi. Yeah. It's nice to see you. How you been? It's been a while.
I've been good. I've been, arting away as usual.
Cool. You like art, right?
Do I like art? I
You
love
like
art.
I like art too. It's nice. You're a visionary artist, right?
I think so.
I think so.
I'm not sure.
Are you a self-proclaimed visionary artist, or were you granted that title by external forces?
I'm a non-binary visionary artist.
Non-binary visionary artist. What are the two?
I'm a multi-dimensional one.
A multi-dimensional visionary artist. Cool. Well, it's awesome to be facilitating this chat and to be doing this virtual tea ceremony with each other.
Oh yeah, like. Ooh.
Cool. What are you drinking? Do you have pu'er?
I do.
Nice.
As usual. Some of it is the pu'er from yesterday.
Nice. I love pu'er.
Save it.
You'd love Malaysia. There's like all these epic Chinese tea houses with like little old Chinese ladies who serve you like 90-year-old pu'ers and tell you all about their properties. I literally
would probably love that for sure.
You would love it. I had like a waking life moment when I was in Malaysia because I sat down at this tea house and this little Chinese lady is serving me pu'er tea, and then there's this old Chinese guy who just I think he saw like my Om sign tattoo, and he was a Buddhist, and he was really passionate about Buddhism, and he just started ranting to me about, he's like, we suffer because we're attached in the form, but the form is formless, and like just goes off on this kind of whole trip of just downloading me with wisdom and in this thick Chinese accent. And I'm kind of looking at this guy and listening to him, and just, it was a really surreal moment. But I often feel like these people appear to me and they're kind of like dream characters, but they have tremendous wisdom to impart to me in my life. I'm sure you have that kind of experience a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah. Wisdom
Yeah,
is key.
cool. So, do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and, yeah, introduce yourself to us?
Okay, for anyone listening, I'm Olivia Curry. I'm a digital artist. I guess you can throw me in the realm of visionary. Um, and I work not just in the digital realms too. I do paint and doodle and sketch. I love graphite stuff too. Um, yeah, and I am a little tea connoisseur. If you can't tell, I'm tea right now. Pretty much every little interview that I've done, I'm always sipping on some kind of tea. Usually pu'er. Usually. Um, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's it's cool to be here with you. I wanted to start. I went through your list of proposed topics, and I'm very enthusiastic about all of them. They're great, but we'll get into all those topics for sure. I wanted to ask you though, what is visionary art to you, and in what way and why do you affiliate with that term?
That term.
Yeah,
Mm.
the term visionary art. What is visionary art to you, and what does it mean to be a visionary artist?
Well, I think the word itself, like vision, just trying to like anchor down those visions and bring them back to this realm. It's sort of like that act of crossing a bridge into a whole new world and within the mind, as the mind is connected to the imaginary realms, and being able to bring that back to share with others. And then I think also the act of bringing it back and anchoring it down, uh, and then being able to reflect back on that is very healing. The act of gazing upon it and looking back and reflecting is very meditative.
Yeah, I think that visionary art is like cartography of the inner landscape. Like it goes into the places that you can't really access with a camera, that you can only access and report back in a kind of eyewitness account, like the realms of lucid dreaming, of psychedelic visions, of meditation experiences. And it is subjective in some ways. You're right, Cosmo Sapien, but it is also objective in so much as there has been this library of iconography and this library of symbolism and this cohesive um, there's cohesive imagery within the artworks of those who are trying to express psychedelic visions that to me demonstrates the validity of those spaces and dimensions. The fact that they all appear similar to each other to me demonstrates that people are perhaps going to the same place or having the same types of experiences, and that it's more than just our mind stuff being projected onto our trips or whatever kinds of experiences that we're having. And I think that the role of visionary art is important to some degree because this is an unexplored, well, it's not unexplored, but it's a relatively undocumented realm of experience. And it's important for us as visionary artists to go into these places because we have a rare skill set to be able to translate those experiences into something that other people can witness and behold.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's important to also be able to tell the story of your experience, even in the piece. And I, in this day and age, I've definitely seen a lot of, a lot of people are dabbling down that route with the medicines or any psychedelic, and they're trying to replicate what they've seen and put it into form. But I think being able to tell a story carries just as much importance, because it's like eventually we're just going to become like a copier of like, okay, we've been there, we've seen this, but what is it that you've learned that you can anchor back in the story?
Mm.
Now there's the wisdom there, is it not?
Yeah, it's kind of like a narrative illustration to try to encapsulate, and it's like you're crystallizing a transmission that you might receive in one of those spaces, and oftentimes those spaces kind of transcend logical, they're really elusive, like it's really hard to put these experiences into words a lot of time, but you can create this painting, and it's like you charge that painting up with the energy of the experience that you had, so that when somebody else is looking at it, it's like they're able to download a little bit of your experience. Have you had experiences like that looking at other people's art? Because I sure have.
Oh yeah, because when you go to those realms, it creates an energetic imprint that's like incredibly powerful. And when someone's art piece has like touched on that same arena, yeah, you can pull energy from that, and you can get charged by it too.
Hmm. I'm curious what your kind of path to becoming a visionary artist was like, because I feel like there's often these kinds of synchronistic or initiatory events that occur for one to be drawn into this very obscure and interesting line of work.
So you want to know like my kind of history of my life?
Well, if it's your whole life, that's awesome. I'm just curious what experiences for you were formative in you becoming a visionary artist.
Um, I mean, I could say it goes all the way back to my childhood, because, I mean, shit, I was that child, parents, like nap time. I'd be like, hell fucking yeah, I'm ready for nap time, because that was when I would like lucid dream and go into these imaginary realms. And I remember being really little, and I had the ability to re-enter dreams that I favorited, that I really liked, and I just hop right back into them the moment I would sleep. And then I think it wasn't until like way later down the road that I started to learn to fly in the dreams. And I was taught by a like a cyan blue elven teacher, taught me how to fly, and he had like a um, like pajamas. But it surely happened after this experience of. I remember in the middle of the night, my brother and I, we shared this memory, and we would check in through time. Like, you remember this? This actually was a thing. This happened. And he woke me up in the middle of the night, and he's like, be quiet. He's like, come check this out. And we go into his room, and his window overlooked the street in the main area where our house is on. And he's like, duck down. So we duck down, and we kind of like peek over the window, and there's like one doorway this way, one doorway that way, and another one, and there is like cyan blue light coming out. It was almost like, think of like a spaceship that had some kind of cloaking technology, but the doorways you could see with the light and these beings coming out that were like cyan blue, and they were coming out and they were going into people's houses, and I just remember looking at him being like, oh my God. And I was like, I don't think we're supposed to be seeing this. And the moment I thought that and said that, and then we peeked back over, they were gone. And then shortly after, it's this being shows up in my dream with the same color, same aura, and trained me how to fly. And we started flying within the neighborhood area and not going too far, because it was the same thing like my mom said. I remember growing up, she was like, she'd always warn me, she's like, Olivia, when you go into the astral plane, she's like, there's some doorways you don't want to go in. She's like, you gotta be careful. There is some where you gotta be real careful, because it's like your energy can get stuck there due to the entities that are there. And I definitely
That was
heed
your
that
mom that said
warning.
that?
Yeah, I was kind of
Wow.
raised into a lot of this. I had a lot of this at my fingertips, like books on the chakras and astro traveling and remote viewing, and she gave me a lot of cassette tapes. I think it was like Wayne Dyer had one on astro traveling, and doing that was interesting. I went to Egypt on first occasion. I was like, that's the first place I'm going to the pyramids.
Nice.
And yeah, so I learned a lot through just what I had at my fingertips as being, a child. And my mom, she was kind of like a 90s new age hippie, is the best way to put it. And so it kind of like began there in my acts of the dream states and the dream field of growing up. And flying a lot of spaceships in my dreams. That was a key factor, like knowing how to pilot them, how to operate the ships. But how to like turn them on was utilizing different geometry within geometry to open it up, and then it would like power on these ships.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was more, I mean, I guess I would call it visionary. I guess it was more being tapped into the second attention.
Mm-hmm.
As we all are when we're kids. We're tapped into more of our shin, which, is connected to our third eye.
I think that absolutely qualifies as visionary.
Yeah.
If you need that validation, I'm happy to give it to you. Yeah, a lot of my
no psychedelics, just dream realms,
no, but I mean, a lot of my initial experiences into spiritual dimensions, if you want to call it that, was through lucid dreaming. I became really fascinated with lucid dreaming when I was in high school, and yeah, had some incredible experiences. I went to some places that were so vivid and so bizarre and so unlike anything I had ever seen or imagined before, that it's really difficult for me to think that that's just the product of my mind and my imagination, or unprocessed, like the unprocessed debris, psychological debris from our daily lives, because these were just really incredibly high definition and detailed alien landscapes and worlds that I was visiting and exploring, that I kind of think have some kind of objective reality, like a dimension or a space that's outside of just my own personal consciousness, and it kind of instead crosses over into this transpersonal realm. Yeah, lucid dreaming is super fascinating.
Yeah. It's not, yeah, what you're saying is it's it's not just the subconscious. It's what I like to use the term, the meta subconscious, that's somehow interwoven into the cosmic intelligence that we're just,
Right.
we only have like a small little narrow view of that, but it's so vast.
Yeah, it's kind of an error of scientific thinking that our minds are limited to, that there are these like clear barriers between my mind and your mind and anybody's mind. I believe in the mind, how that there's like a super consciousness that kind of interweaves itself in the consciousness of all people. And I think that you can tap into those kinds of archetypal collective realms through lucid dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard of some really remarkable experiences from very practiced lucid dreamers that are kind of like these inception experiences. Like there are different levels of the dream realm that get really meta, and the experiences can be really bizarre. But
Yeah.
yeah, I I read this book by Dr. Stephen LaBerge. Have you ever seen any of his work? So Stephen LaBerge was the scientist that actually proved scientifically that you could lucid dream. It was not actually accepted by the academic community until like the 1980s or something like that, when he did these studies.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a lot of really interesting stuff in there. Besides bizarre experiences that people were having, they found things like there was a athlete that had been injured, but they continued to practice in lucid dreams. It was like a tennis player, and then when they got out of the dream realm, they could still, like, it was like they were even better at playing than they were before they were injured, which normally there's this large recovery period and then you have to relearn and repractice.
Mm-hmm.
And musicians that were able to hear musical compositions and then wake up out of the dream realm and transcribe it, or even visual artists who would intentionally invoke some kind of place like an art gallery and then see these works of art on the wall and then wake up and like draw them and stuff like that.
I had an experience like that.
Really cool.
Yeah, I had this dream. I wonder if I can get. Hold on, give me 1 second. See if I can get the art piece. But I had this dream where I was in the dream, and I was in an art gallery, exactly as you're saying, and I was looking around, and I was amazed by these sort of like multi-dimensional, like felinoid creatures that were in all these pieces, and the name of the art show was called Lions of God. And it wasn't until the end of the dream, before I woke up, I realized, I was like, "Holy crap! This is my artwork," in the dream. So when I woke up, it wasn't until like a few days later I decided to draw, at least draw one of them that I saw in the dream. And a lot of them, they were like in profile view. Oh, here it is. I don't know if you can kind of see it.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. Can I get another world there? But yeah, that happened. So I made manifest of what was in that dream, at least one of the pieces.
Do you still have a strong lucid dreaming practice or a vivid connection to your dream life in general?
Well, um, weed kind of derailed that because I would smoke that before I go to bed, and especially when I started working on set, I needed that to help me sleep. And it's not until just now, this whole quarantine, kind of, I was like, all right, I'm gonna, break away from that and try not to do that. I still relied on it. And then I got one of these chi shields that it what it does is it works with these water chambers inside, that it's almost like straight hydrogen, and it's copper around it, so it creates like a torus field. And I had got it because I've noticed, like, when I'm on the computer or on my phone, I start to get like headaches and migraines, and a lot of it is just needing to take a break. And I started to notice just like my attention span. So I got one of these, and it's supposed to also help filter out Wi-Fi. Well, it doesn't filter it out. What it does is it reorganizes it and like transmutes it and grounds it. So it's different frequencies. I've noticed through time. This is it wasn't in, I think it was like more 2000 and I don't know, 2014 or something like that. That's when I started to notice the shift from lucid dream states. And I don't know, maybe it is the technology infrastructure. I know there's that whole thing with the 5G or whatever. But I noticed that there's just a whole shift in my realm of dreaming. So I ended up getting one of these. I can sleep like a baby. And I'm able to remember my dreams from that upon awakening as
Wow.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember it just being so effortless in a way, and it was like a superpower, that ability to access that lucid dream state and explore those realms. But it's like it's kind of like the more responsibility I feel like I have in default reality, the less of a cord I have to that dream realm. There was a period of time, probably for, I don't know, several months, where every single morning I wrote down my dreams when I woke up. And when I do that consistently, I do feel like I still have this kind of tether to that dimension.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you don't really lose it. But yeah, like lately I haven't really been remembering my dreams at all when I wake up.
Writing dreams down definitely helps. I remember when you know Anson Fong, right? Who
Yeah.
had the dreamcatcher.net.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was like, oh, this is so cool. I like the whole like setup on it and the interface, and just logging in every morning and then blogging my dreams. And that alone helped so much. And I just, yeah, writing them down does that, because it's almost like you're engaging your mental cognition when you wake up to be like, okay, need to just plug it in, and it helps remember. And that's a lot. That's the reason, is memory and
Mm.
short-term memory. And this is another thing that's also helped me too, not just the chi shield, is Ambil and Mambe. So Mambe has actually helped me not only focus, but it helps with short-term memory.
Mambe is coca powder, right? And then ambil is like a tobacco sludge. That's like
Yeah,
from
it's cooked down
the
to the
macho.
salt. So yeah, the mapacho, it's chock full of like mineral salts, and it's cooked down to like a sludge. It definitely changes the molecular structure of it, um, be more bioavailable. Yeah, that helps too. But the mambe is definitely the key in with helping with short term memory.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when you have more of a connection to your dreams, that informs the artwork that you create? Do you draw direct inspiration from what you experience in your dreams into the work that you're creating?
Do I do it all the time?
Well, just
What are
like,
you asking?
you know, you were talking about having these shifts in your ability to recall your dreams and improvement with your memory and things like that. When you feel more connected to your dreams and when you feel like you can recall them better, do you think that informs the artwork that you're creating?
Yeah, it helps a lot, because you're tapping back into those realms, like the energetic imprint, be able to pull that back into what you're creating.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
You ever hear of the band called Maudlin of the Well?
Call what?
You ever heard of a band called Maudlin of the Well?
No.
It's like this really obscure progressive metal band. This guy, Toby Driver, was the founder of the band, and then that band became Kyodot. They're like really avant-garde, strange orchestral jazz metal band. But Maudlin of the Well was his first project, and I think Toby Driver was a part of these lucid dream studies that they did at Stanford with Stephen LaBerge. And he claims that all the music in Maudlin of the Well, he didn't compose himself, but he discovered in his dreams. So he would go into a dream, like a lucid dream state, and in the dream he would put on a record or something like that and listen to the music. And it was pretty weird, apparently, because the music he was writing, at least, became quite strange. But he would remember that upon awakening, and he was like a music student, so he could transcribe music and write notation and stuff like that. And he would actually write it down, like what he heard in his dreams. And yeah, it's really, really strange, emotional, intense, experimental music.
That's amazing.
But that was a pretty cool use of lucid dreaming, and an interesting way to be able to explore the creative imagination.
Mm-hmm. What's the name of the band again?
Maudlin of the Well.
Okay.
I can write it down.
You'll have to send me a link on that. I want to check that out.
I'll put it in the comments for people to check out. So continue with your story a little bit. I'm curious how you became initiated into becoming a visionary artist from those formative lucid dream experiences.
How I became initiated? Through the dream field. A lot of it didn't actually, I feel like, begin to happen fully until I was in college. Because I went to Full Sail University. It's like one of those schools where it's a four-year college that you do in 2 years. So you didn't really have breaks. It's very intensive learning, and the only thing that was kind of keeping me sane was, yes, my dream fields and dreaming, lucid dreaming, as well as the use of plant medicines on the weekends. It kept me more focused and expanded my mind in such a way. Even I feel like almost I look back on those experiences then, and I feel like they were a lot more intense, and it could have been because, you know, when your mind is in the gears are turning to constantly like learn, and in such a way, so when you enter those realms, you are able to take in more, and it becomes very intense.
Were you studying art?
Yeah, I mean, we had art classes, a lot of like technology classes as well, learning different programs. Our main program that we were working with in Full Sail is called Maya. I've had so many experiences where I would just like reflect. I'd smoke a little weed, and I'm like, I'm working in a program called Maya, and you're fabricating these, you know, simulated world, and then I'd fractal out. I'd be like, oh my God, am I creating myself in the program called Maya as I'm working in the program creating this? And I'd be like, oh. And it was like, hold on.
What if it turns out that you actually are like this metaphysical God who's like creating these dimensions that actually have, you know, like conscious beings within them, and you don't even know it? It's like an Ender's Game kind of experience.
Yeah.
You just realize you're like, I've been creating worlds.
It's such a trip. But that program they use a lot, and I think they've kind of switched over now to, forgot what it's called, but in the film industry they'll use that program called Maya. The whole film industry is like all black magic. I mean, shit, even the most powerful cameras in the film industry is called black magic. There's a lot of magic there, and a lot of like esoteric stuff, and particular films, especially with like you got the Wiskowski sisters now, and all their films and whatnot. Um, but it's interesting how like films have such a powerful impact on people too, um, and utilizing that realm to kind of, I don't know, relay a message, but you're also like subconsciously programming everyone in a way. So
Yeah. It is magic because you're playing with illusion. You know, you're playing
yeah,
with light on a screen, but it draws people into this reality that then they are like participating in. That has a really big impact on people's consciousness. So yeah,
it
it is
does.
magic for sure. It's
Yeah.
like high magic of our culture, really. But I think that painting and other forms of art, like music, that's also a form of magic because
Hmm.
you're interfacing with another's consciousness and imagination, and you are potentially helping them to redefine their concepts of life and reality through the messages that you're transmuting to that person. And
Yeah.
that's what movies do, you know?
Hmm.
Like, it's not just entertainment. Like, people that are really into superhero movies, they relate to those superheroes like they're gods or something. Like, they're so like attached, you know what I mean? Like, they worship
Yeah.
them like deities. And yeah, so it's not just entertainment, it goes deep, and it is magic for sure.
Oh yeah.
And you
Yeah.
you work in the film industry now, right?
Was.
Was okay, yeah.
I guess now this whole thing, like, I was like, I'm gonna, you know, because CBS, they were still kind of like allowing when all this stuff was going down. CBS was like, uh, allowing the department, I guess I kind of work is like paint department, like construction workers. They were all still kind of like going and trying to push for the next season in Dynasty, and I was like, I'm gonna go down with the sinking ship. So I was like, and plus I was like, well, I don't know when I'll go back to work and, you know, have money and stuff. So I definitely stuck it out and worked until then. But who knows when any of that will, yeah, start back up. It's gonna be a minute, because you're around people constantly. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people on production. So
Have you have you found like a reorientation of your focus in
yes,
lockdown?
I have. So one of the things I keep getting from people, especially doing the Zoom live digital painting, and just people just discovering my work, that a lot of people are like, I want to learn. Like,
Mm.
they want me to teach them. So I've actually been compiling together a full blown like immersive course. My friend Josh, he's trying to pull together a creative creators academy, um, and it's so it's all going to be sectioned off into different modules. So I'm working on one module, calling it digital alchemy. It's just it's a term I like to use for the style like I do. He's like, yeah, I do digital painting, but also there's a lot of composite and explaining how to build your elements too, that you're going to put in your piece, whatever you're creating. But yeah, I have a full breakdown, not just even with you know, like, hey, you can do this to get this effect to look cool in this part of the program and that. I'm also setting up a workspace for anyone who because it's all going to be focused in Corel because that's the main program you use, you know. And I'm also setting up a whole thing on the mindset you have to put yourself into to begin creating, or at least that I do. Because a lot of people are always like, what goes on in your brain? Like, I want to know how you do what you do. So I'm trying to give a full breakdown of that. And it's interesting because it's allowing me to dissect how I go through the process that I do. So it's helped me expand as well. Um, and that. So I've
Yeah,
been writing a whole course and doing that, and what else have I been doing? I've been helping with like broadcasting, doing production, that sense of things, as well as writing my 2 graphic novels that I've been working on for a long time.
that's great. Yeah, I think that now is kind of this time of like people who are more experienced are being called to be leaders and guides and to be of service of others.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've definitely felt more inclined to be teaching and to be educating and to be guiding and spreading ideas in this time. And it seems like a lot of other people have kind of had the same impulse. And it's a perfect time because there's so many people that are just kind of in lockdown without a specific purpose, and they don't have a job anymore. They have all this free time. What are they going to do with it? Perhaps they can learn with you how to create beautiful digital paintings, you
Yeah.
know? Or maybe that's a subject that somebody wanted to explore for a long time but never really had the opportunity to until now. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a really great time to take advantage of what the internet and what digital media, what opportunities that affords us, and to be able to share knowledge and to be able to teach and interact with people in this really special way.
Yeah. I'm learning ZBrush from Avi. You know
Oh,
Avi.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's teaching me ZBrush. Again, I mean I dabbled with it and when I was in Full Sail, so the learning, like I'm able to pick it up pretty quick. Um, but I'm gonna add that extra element. I mean, sometimes I do, CGI elements in there, and I work in this other program called Grobato. It's a very
Mm.
out there Russian program, just like where you can create fractal CGI elements. Um, yeah, that was the only program besides a little bit here and there when I would reopen Maya, but that's a beast of a program. Every time I'm like, whoa, this is to even like wrap my head around it every time I open it. I'm just like, no, no.
Yeah. I know a bit about digital art because I have some experience with it, but I think a lot of people that are watching this might not really know so much what goes into creating digital art. And there's a stigma against it. A lot of the times people see a
Oh
work
yeah.
of art and they see that it's made digitally and they're like, oh, like, so you just like press some buttons on a computer? Like, you just need to know the cheat codes, right? Like, you just know the correct sequence of like buttons and then it like poops out this like awesome visionary art piece, right? Like, that's just how it works. Everybody knows that. But yeah, if you could kind of tell us a little bit
I
about
like
what
your
goes
description
into.
of it. That's, oh my god,
Well,
it's so
like,
true though.
but between you and me, like, we know about the cheat codes. Like, we know about you press the right sequence of the buttons, and that's how masterpieces of visionary art are born. Um, but you know, other people assume that like you need years of training to learn how to use these programs, and you need to master, you know, traditional drawing and painting, and develop the accuracy and finesse of your eye, you know, and have like taste and stuff like that. But I mean, you and I just know that that's just a misunderstanding. It's all about
Yeah.
the cheat codes. But yeah, do you want to
Yeah,
guide
I can
us?
touch on that. So one of the reasons why I love doing live digital painting is because, and even when I would do it at events or festivals and stuff like that, people come up and they'd be like, "Whoa!" Like their minds will just melt. Especially with a program like Corel because it has so many cool tools within that program, and I'll have people come and stand next to me, and they're just like, I've never seen the actual process of the creation of a digital, like a digital work, and they're just like, you're blowing my mind right now. I've like, and they and they'll say the same thing. They just think, you know, you just push a few buttons and it just like manifests like boop boop, you know. I was like, no, it's like you're going through essentially the same strokes and motions you would on you know, pen and paper or canvas. You, especially if you're working with a Wacom tablet, which you kind of have to if you're going to do digital painting. But I think where it kind of makes people's minds melt is because when you're working in a program like that, and if you know the little like hotkeys where you can make the brush bigger real quick, or you can select a color real quick, it speeds up the creative process. And I think the beautiful part about digital, the digital realms and creating in that is once you got that down, the kind of technical side of it and like understanding these little easy ins and outs, then you kind of have everything at your fingertips, meaning like nothing restricts the creative flow when it's like surging through you. And not saying you can't do that on canvas, you can, and there's a little bit more of like a discipline too, but I sometimes just like the raw, just like thrown in, because those tools I already know how to use and just go at full force, and there's nothing obstructing when it's like coming through. And that's why also like you can create a digital piece where say you're trying to replicate a painting that you did that took months, and you do it in the digital, like say if you're referencing to it and you're looking at it, you're like, though I wouldn't do that because it's like if I've already painted in, you know, acrylic I already have there. But just as an example, you know, you could create it in just, you know, a few weeks or days even,
Or hours.
or hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on what it is.
And it's like we're gonna die, so we need to make as much art as possible.
Yeah.
It's like we can spend our whole lifetime and make like one really nice painting, or maybe we can make hundreds of really nice paintings. And if there are new tools that allow for greater efficiency for the creative process, and it's also an orientation that we have culturally where we look at the artifact, and the whole art scene is obsessed with the artifact. Like you create this physical object, and the value of that object is so that, you know, you can sell it to a collector and there's only one of them, and that creates scarcity, or maybe there's like a limited number of prints and that's what makes it valuable. But what if the value was just in the work of art itself? It's like, what if it wasn't about having some kind of object that you needed to sell, and it was just about coming through with the most beautiful thing, like the most beautiful creative expression, the most refined and thoughtful creative expression that maybe only exists etherically, maybe it only exists digitally. Like, do we really need an artifact if people can see it and experience it? Like, is it that important that there's like a, you know, a three-dimensional physical object that's attributed to that work of art?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you have a print of a piece that you created and you're like a giclée or whatever, you again with the reflecting back at the art piece and being able to pull the energy from it. I think that's, I mean, you don't want to stare at a computer screen for like the rest of your life. So it's nice to have that physical form. I you know, where you can put it in your meditation room, reflect back on it, and it helps bring you into that state.
Yeah.
But I do see where you're going. Like,
I just mean like as an alternate paradigm to the one that we live in, you know, potentially digital works of art could be valued as just digital works of art because of the art itself and because it's a beautiful creative expression, without needing to say this is only valuable if you print it out on canvas, and then you have this canvas print and that's valuable, but the work of art itself, it's like, that's just, it doesn't exist. It's just on the computer. Like, what do you mean it doesn't exist? Like, it exists.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's also possible that things in the future could transition to there being more ways of exhibiting digital art without necessarily needing to say like print it onto a canvas or a tapestry or something first. Like it could exist in augmented reality, or it could exist on some kind of, if people had high definition screens that could exhibit art. Because I've also found, and maybe you feel the same way, I'm not sure, that when I print a digital work of art out onto canvas, it loses something. Like it's not as juicy as when I look at the digital version, and it's just the colors are
Yeah.
sharper and clearer, and you know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes like when you print it on giclée canvas, it's not as sharp, and I mean you don't have like a giant luminescent light that's like from behind the art that's like radiating it. But you can. There are like I mean I guess you could print it off in like a light box type ordeal, and then
Yeah.
you know fancy frame around it or something. But
Yeah, I remember seeing this show that Android did in 2012 in San Francisco, and he had these pieces that were printed on glass, and
uh-huh.
they were like exhibited in the corners of the gallery, and it was all white walls, so the lights would shine through the glass. So they had this really beautiful luminescent quality to it, and then also it was like stained glass, like the colors from the paintings were all like shined onto the white walls around them. It was really cool.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
It's like moths to a flame when you see the like woo, it's just kind of walking
Yeah,
right through it.
it's like the digital art is literally glowing, like it's shining light out, you know, and like
Mhm.
traditional media art, the light is shining onto it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like one of them has a light pointed at it, the other one isn't the light, you know? So it's like, what are we going to be more attracted to?
yeah.
You know, probably the big glowing thing, you know?
I'm totally one of those people. Ooh, light, go right over to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird that this is in 2020 even still kind of like a conversation that has to happen. That there's still such a sort of stigma against digital art, and there's still such a um, this like superiority thing with traditional media versus digital art. And like I'm somebody that works pretty extensively with both, and I personally don't see there being a superiority of either. You know,
Yeah,
I think that like a beautiful work of art is a beautiful work of art, whether you create it digitally or you use oil paint or you use watercolor or you use whatever. It doesn't matter. It's the work of art and the intention that goes into it, and you know how beautiful and refined it is. That's important, not what tools you use to make it.
yeah, exactly. And I would love to see a little bit more of a crossover because in the visionary artist realm, there's not that many digital ones that work in digital medium, but to see a little bit of a crossover and being like, hey, try these tools, especially like Corel Painter. I think it's a very like intuitive program where like anyone who mainly would work doing paintings to be able to pick up and dabble with that.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of art on the iPad over the last year, and I put out a little online course recently on using it to make art also. But
I shared it.
what? You
I shared
shared
it
it?
on
Yeah,
Facebook. Yeah, I shared it for you.
thank you. Yeah, I totally convinced Amanda Sage to buy an iPad, and she has the course, and she's gonna do that. So yeah, that'll be cool to see because she's somebody who's like real traditional. Like
Yeah,
her art technique is old school, like Renaissance era old school. So it'll be interesting to see how she gravitates towards it and if she finds it easy or not. Did you like I really grew up a lot on the computer, you know? Like I grew up playing video games and I grew up in a school system that did a lot of stuff on the computer. And I started playing around with Photoshop when I was like 12 because they had it on my school computer. And I think that maybe I took some kind of class for it or something. Were you somebody that was already using technology a lot in other facets of your life? When did you, and was that easy then to gravitate towards
Yeah,
maybe
I
art?
grew up. I was definitely a little bit of a gamer because my brother he had to get every system, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna play," and I'd play that. And then my dad, I think I got more of the tech side from my dad because he's an engineer. He he can build a computer from scratch, and which he has done. And he'd build websites, and he had Photoshop on his computer, so I would play with that. But I remember a long time ago when I was young. Do you remember in the internet they'd have web rings? So instead of like a Google search, so there'd be like a website and uh, whatever, unicorns. And then you scroll down to the bottom and there was like a web ring and it would bring you to a site similar to that. And that's kind of like
No?
how you just go through this weird discovery of jumping from website to website. And so I wanted to create one. And the first website I ever built, which I don't think exists anymore, I
It's
didn't,
always
I
the
just kind of
archives.
orchestrated my dad to be like, I want that on there. I want this. I was big into fairies, so it was a whole website on fairies, and like, like the whole download of like, okay, well, if you want to, lure in the fairy spirits, you leave a little bit of milk and honey outside, and like instructions on it, build fairy houses, and like everything about fairies. So my first website was like, and it had like oh, it was really cool instead of like music from like Spotify, what we have, you'd put in like a little download of a MIDI, like a little MIDI synth kind of sounding
Really?
music. So yeah, you would on the
Wow.
website it would have like music playing that was like a
How
little
old
MIDI.
were you when you made this website?
Let's see, probably I just know I think I was in elementary school. I don't remember how old,
You're like
but yeah, that was
you're
the
like
first, I guess,
9 and making websites about
fairies.
leaving milk for fairies. That's so cool.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
again, the Photoshop on my dad's computer is where I played a lot with it. And I remember when ZBrush first came out, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Because I
Yeah.
loved sculpting. In high school, I was mainly a sculptor. Like, I wanted to be a sculptor. And then when that came out, I started dabbling with that. And then I was thrown into wanting to go to Full Sail
Hmm.
and learn
I think
more.
we have just like a few minutes left in this chat. We can start up another one if you want and keep
Sure, why
talking.
not?
Yeah.
We can
But
take a
yeah,
potty break.
I really wish that I had gotten into 3D modeling earlier, like around the same time I started playing with Photoshop and stuff like that, because I feel like back then it was so much easier to learn these things. And now when I try to learn, Cinema 4D or or Blender, these other programs, it seems like this crazy learning curve, and I just get kind of like discouraged, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, and I'll do that another time, you know. But if I
Yeah.
had been just playing around with it when I was like a preteen, by now I would know 3D modeling. It'd be great.
Yeah. Well, that's the key though, is being playful. Playful learning is like how I've always learned. It's just when you approach something like that, you just be playful with it. Let that inner child come out. And I think the digital mediums are great at that. Like bringing out that inner child. You're like, oh, cool. What are these cool tools? Oh, this cool workspace. What is that brush? There's so many, tools at your fingertips. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna play with that. That's how I feel.
For sure. All right. Well, I'm going to end this one. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We're going to jump right back on in just a second. Don't miss us too much. Don't be too sad. We'll be right back.
All right, potty
Promise.
break.
All right. Cool. And I just found my 3D modeling minion. That's
I
cool.
know. I see.
Dude, I manifested it. All right.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
All right.
I was asking our devoted listeners what their favorite animals are. We have a lot of different answers. People, deer, snakes,
Oh,
flying
dragonflies.
squirrels, platypus. It's like a progression
Fun.
of like mundane to bizarre.
Do you know what my favorite animal is, Jake?
No,
How
but
well do you know me?
your favorite animal is cats. That's my guess.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to talk to you about cats, and
Kitty
that's going to
cats?
be the topic for the rest of our conversation.
Yes. Okay.
So just tell us about cats. I've always wondered. I can't.
Big cats?
Every time I witness it, every time there's a cat in my presence, I realize the profound ineffability of that creature, and the fact that I will never understand that cat, and that cat will never understand me, and that's okay. So I want to hear what you have to say about cats to wisen me
Uh-huh.
to their great mystery.
Well, the furthest back memory that I remember being a kid and could hardly walk was my grandma. She took me over. She was like, yeah, Olivia, you gotta see this. And I always see this little girl outside um, with this little kitten. And then finally, she took me over there and introduced me to this girl, definitely older than me because it was her pet kitten, and I was such a baby, like I couldn't, couldn't have that. They wouldn't give me a kitty cat friend, but I went over there, and it was my first experience ever holding a cat, and she let me hold the cat, and when the cat, it was a little white cat, it was like just a little angel, and it started purring, and that was my first experience of ecstasy, is when it like engulfed me in that purr. And that's why I haven't forgot it, because everything was glowing after that, and I was like, what just happened, and that was my first time ever holding a cat, and I'll never forget that. There's so much like potency from just that experience, again with that imprint, being able to pull from that. And I feel like from that moment in time has kind of like acted as that catalyst for that deep kitty cat love. um, Eventually I did have kitty cat friends. When my mom and my dad separated, um, my mom got a cat for my brother and I. My brother was very malicious. Sometimes I was like, "Why are you doing this?" Because he would squirt him with water guns and stuff, and yeah,
It's bad.
chase him around. Huh?
Bad. You shouldn't squirt the cats with water guns.
Yeah, I remember it destroyed one of our computers because it jumped on top of the computer and he squirted it, and then it peed all over the computer, and it was a goner at that point. And that's when my mom got rid of the cats. She was like, Chris, can't have them. Olivia, you're just too young. So.
I like cats. They've taught me a lot. Like I always play it cool around cats. I try not to put too much energy towards them, and like they just crave they're like, cats really like being too good for people, like they like people to chase them around, and them to get that little ego hit of being like, no, you can't pet me. I know you want to pet me, but you can't. And me, I don't even try to pet the cats, and that like does this head trip on them. It freaks them out. So they're like, why doesn't this guy want to pet me? Don't they see like how pretty and fluffy I am? And then they start trying to get my attention. They come up to me, and instead, it's taught me a lot.
Yeah. It's the neutrality. When you come with that neutral approach, then they're like, okay.
Yeah,
But
they're like, what's up?
I've noticed people who are like heavy dog lovers, they come in that energy. They like want to pet the cat like crazy, and then they're like, wow, like the cats are like, no, 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 I'm not a dog. But I love dogs too. But I'm definitely more of a cat cat fan. I even worked with big cats too. Back in Florida, it was at a rescue. Um, it wasn't just big cats. It was not the one on Tiger King. Not that. This is a totally
Those are some
different
pretty big cats. Those are
rescue.
like extra large cats.
Well, I worked with pumas. That was pumas was the main cats that we worked with at this rescue, and we also worked with alligators, snakes, venomous snakes, tarantulas. I feel like I'm leaving some other weird animal out. But the pumas were my favorite because we go and we'd feed them and then eventually walk them. But you'd sign a waiver, basically sign your life away. Just sort of like, you're a volunteer.
You'll probably die. They're like,
you could die.
There's an 87% chance that you're gonna die. So
you
just
get your
sign
arm
this
taken
waiver.
off.
But you can play with.
Well, when feeding the pumas, you had to, when you carry the meat, you would sandwich it and you would go up to the fence and you'd have to, they're like, make sure when you'd hold it, you'd have to hold the meat like with your fingers and push against the fence. The moment you try to, they're like, you don't hand it this way or else they would just like, take your hand through the fence. So we'd feed them, and there's this one puma in particular. She's inspired the name of the character in my Lunar Samurai story that I'm writing. Her name is Saber, and that's the name of the character as well. But this puma, no one, and none of the volunteers, they were terrified of her. She was like, just like so wild and just like alpha cat. She would climb on top of all the other cats to just like show her power. And they said she was a little bit of a younger one too. And I just saw her and I was like, holy crap. Just so beautiful. And like when those big cats, when you recognize their wild beauty and their primordial like essence of what that is, they see you. And she let me feed her, and the purr that she put out when I fed her was just through the roof. It was so deep and just loving and powerful and wild, and that was like another big purr catalyst for me. A purr catalyst.
Catalyst.
Catalyst. Oh, etymology.
Nice. That concludes the cat section of the podcast.
Well, what about the interdimensional cats?
Tell us about the interdimensional cats. I don't know about interdimensional cats. You're the expert.
The felinoids, yeah, the felinoid cats. I've encountered them in the dream field as it's weird, not so much as like a teacher, but like lover or kinship, which would make sense. But I've definitely seen my felinoid avatar body, which is a little bit more real than this. And when in that body, I've very powerful telekinetic abilities. Like I had one dream, I remember my mom and my father were in the dream, and they were looking at me terrified but in awe. They were just like, I was letting them know, I was like, I'm not your child. Like I'm not your child anymore. This is my real form. This is me. And I was like, watch. And I put my hands in the ocean, and there was like a landmass in the ocean, and I put my hands, and as I rose up out of the water, and I was connected in the way, I don't know if you've ever heard the terminology tinging. Mm-hmm. So it's when all your senses are engaged to not only the action that you're doing, but the world, everything there. And it's like you're fully engulfed in that network. And when you're tapped in, those are the moments that you can harness those like abilities. And I moved a whole landmass out of the water, and just that feeling, that like power of what that was incredible. And it wasn't, it was, it wasn't like, you know, like, yeah, power. It was more like uh, the sort of illusion of disconnect, but you're fully connected. So it was almost like
Mm.
you're completely associated with it and disassociated with it. And just that sort of like obtuse energy with the acute being able to do that. And yeah, that dream I'll never forget, because I just, it was weird because it was like I felt connected to them in that way, that human way of once was. But in the dream, I was like, this is it. And I've had another one being in that same avatar body of jumping around, and I was destroying spaceships, kind of like Avatar style. You know how that they were like jumping around on the planes and trying to stop them from going around to, I think it was not Mother Tree, but the ancestral tree, and they're jumping from all those different spaceships. It was like that in another dream. And there was a woman though in the dream that I could never make out, but she could kind of like tame me. But that wild, primordial, divine creature that we all have within us, and I think it's so potent to tap into that. And yeah, and sometimes it's heavily connected to our avatar um, energy field or body. Um, but yeah, that's a felinoid spiel of that.
It's like you came out of the cat closet, you know, like your parents, you were like, yeah, you thought that I was your daughter, but I'm a cat.
Yeah,
Meow.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
you're
had
like, and
the
check this
last
out. And then, yeah, you did the thing. They're like, whoa, she is a cat and she's badass.
the last powerful mushroom experience I was going through with my sister. She was like, I never thought I'd witness the day, but she's like, you totally morphed into a cat. And I was like, yeah, I was actually having a struggle between being human and being a cat. And I couldn't speak. I could purr. It was like, meow. And then I would like knock books over towards her and oracle cards. And she definitely takes on the role of like being the oracle. She's like ally, just like, you know, reading reading in the moment what was happening too. And then all the Hindu deities were going through her, and she was just, you know, it was incredible. But yeah, I was morphing into a cat, and that was a really interesting experience because it goes down to again tapping into that primordial essence again that we all have. I believe that we're, you know, our animal consciousness is so powerful and so ancient, and we all have it, and that's why people resonate with different animal spirit guides and all of that, because it's like, you know, pulling in that energy. But everyone has a core um, guide, and no, yeah, mine's a cat, and I was definitely morphing into what that was.
I like snakes.
Like snakes,
Yeah.
your core.
I think like snakes are like my core, yeah.
Yeah, I
Snakes
can see that.
snakes
I
are
can
like
see that.
snakes are like they're like cats with scales though, you know? They're
I guess, yeah, I guess I can see that. Yeah.
um
Cats and scales. So you're like a cat snake, cat dragon, snake, more snake,
it's more like a dragon, just straight dragon.
dragon. Okay.
It's hard on the dragon side. There might be like a
Yeah.
little bit of cat or snake in there, but it's mostly dragon.
Mostly dragon. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm really
haven't
on the dragon. Dragon's another one of my.
I haven't come out to my parents though yet. I haven't told them that they thought I was their son, but I'm actually a dragon. And then I too shall move some great landmass with my with the force.
Would you say your telepathic ability is more kinetic, or 'cause there's all different kinds?
No, I would not say my
No.
telepathic ability is kinetic. I'm a visionary artist. I would say that my telepathic power is more clairvoyant, you know, or like like
Clairvoyance.
the ability to navigate mental transdimensional realms. That's more my like, and psychic impulses, like intuition. But I'm not the most kinetic person in general, really. Although I like to dance, but other than that, not so much.
Yeah. Well, there's the body consciousness tapping into that all on a cellular level.
Yeah,
Even when you enter into a space, and this is what you're talking about is like that intuitive empath, and you've got that.
yeah, yeah. I would say that. I mean, I sometimes have really strong flashes of intuitions about people or circumstances that turn out to be accurate. Nice. I like the sound. You're not actually even serving tea. You're just like clanging some pots. You're like, this is a nice sound. Ding.
Ping, 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 ping.
I like.
Yeah. The intuitive empath. Have you read any of Lujan Mantis's books?
No, tell me.
Oh my God. I had literally bought all of his books. He's an incredible, incredible teacher, and he kind of like, he's opened me up to tapping into those abilities more. Because every human on earth has the ability of empathy, and we are empathic creatures, and I think part of the evolution of humanity is that essence is going to be engaged more and more, and instead of running away from it, which I know a lot of people like to do and hide, you got to run towards that, because that's where the real growth is running towards those abilities. But yeah, he kind of gives really amazing practices and insight and a multiplex of knowledge of how to tap into that, and even through the practices. And which book? I'm actually surrounded by his books. I think it was this one, Whispering of the Dragon, the Shamanic Techniques to Awaken Your Primal Power. This one goes into deconstructing the social programming within you, and to do that, again, goes to the clairvoyance, and he kind of allows you to see that within you, the program, and teaches you techniques to reverse your senses. So the way that he describes it as like, with your sight, it's you're turning that inward, and you're listening outward, and teaches you how to turn off that internal dialogue. And everyone has it, and that is like that core stem that goes straight down to that social program. And his stuff is so powerful, because like there's the first gate, and the first gate is in that book is pretty much 80% of the book, and then the other 20% that you read more towards the end goes into the other, I think, 6 gates, which is all it.
Can you write the name of the book in the comments? Like actually write it?
How do I, okay. Well, here, I'll just type in his name. Mentis. Any of his books, I would highly recommend, though, first reading The Art of Stalking Parallel Perception, which is like a huge, thick book, but it kind of gives you the download of who he is. So for 33 years, again, talking about the dream realm, he got a download of all of these teachings, which can happen. Like, you can be a part of a shamanic lineage and get all that information in that way, or you can have it done interdimensionally through the dream realms. I've definitely dealt with some teachers before in the dream realm, but his stayed with him, and his name is Lo Ben, and he's taken on many different archetypes, even in those dream realms, um, to teach him and how to stock his what is it? What do they call it? Your double. We have a double, and it again with the energetic imprints. It's like what when you go to these realms, these dreams, you are leaving an energetic double there. But he teaches you how to pull that energy back without leaving it there. And there are entities, there's sorcery that has been around since day one, that will seek for anyone who's trying to tap into those like higher seer abilities. You will definitely come encounter with this, but the more that you're able to see with clarity, then you can like see through all that black magic, that sorcery. And again, because time isn't linear, so those sorcerers that started to pull themselves in alignment over time with different entities in those realms, and they act more as like a parasite to those individuals working with that magic. So that's why it's key to like tap into that seer ability, for the sake of the like collective healing, the collective dream healing. It's wild, and it's cool because he like in which one is it? Shadows and Twilight's conversation with a shaman. That's like one of his students talking with him, and he goes a lot more, not just in the art of stalking parallel perception, but he goes into kind of like the history of how that all kind of like came about, the act of working with sorcery. And there are still people to this day. I mean, I know that my friends have encountered shamans in the Amazon that pull themselves in alignment with these energies, and they like to pull themselves in a way where they're able to feed off of people in ceremony. And there are teachers that do that even in other lineages. And I'm not trying to like scare anyone, but people need to be aware that there are people with ill intentions, and you may never know. And just because they're sitting in the seat of that throne of calling themselves a shaman, or I'm this guru, I'm this teacher, you still don't fully know their intention. Like I have a friend who was learning through a Vajrayana teacher, and this teacher, he started to know the difference too, because he also studied like Chinese medicine. You can tell in a person's eyes when their energy is being depleted, and they start to get bags under their eyes. So everyone who was still a student of this guy, I mean, it was weird because he would still teach them, but he would teach them to an extent to where he could pull energy from them to still keep them there, and that's how he would gain his power. So it's all like this sort of like matrix of parasitic energy. And so he ended up breaking away from that group, and but he started to use astro travel, like Doctor Strange style, to like sit in to still hear the information of it, sit in on it without being drained on an energetic level.
Wow.
So
Yeah, astral travel is it would be a useful skill to have in these days for most people. And maybe that's the collective kind of realization that will come through, is the ability to be able to have experiences of other places without needing to physically go there in our 3D meat bodies.
3D meat bodies. Yeah.
But yeah, also about the teachers, it seems like most of the really enlightened teachers throughout history didn't ask anything of their students at all. And in a lot of cases really fled from attention or from accolades and material possessions and things like that. Ram Dass tells stories about his guru Neem Karoli Baba, about how he would be in some house and like people would hear that he was in the village and they would find the house that he was in and they would kind of just like all storm in on him, and then he would like escape out of like the window or something and like flee, you
Yeah.
know, because like I mean, and he was like a real, a quote unquote real guru, but he didn't want to be a guru. People just wanted to be
Uh-huh.
around him because it felt good to be around him, you know. And I think that that's
Yeah.
like a true master, a true teacher. They don't want to. They don't want the ego boost of it. They're just like chilling in eternal consciousness, and people gravitate towards that because they radiate out so much light.
Yeah.
And another thing I remember that I was going to say about what you said, yeah, just in terms of empathy, I think that we do all have the capacity, or at least many people have the capacity, to be deeply and profoundly empathetic. And there's so much suffering in the current condition of humanity that we have created these walls and barriers around our abilities to be as empathetic as we could be, because if we were really to be open, the suffering would be overwhelming to us, you know. And I've had experiences in ayahuasca ceremonies where I've had those walls like completely down and I've been totally naked to just be open and to be feeling, and it's like really intense, you know. It's really, really intense because there's so much suffering. And you know, to be truly empathetic, you have to have those walls totally down, and we have those walls for good reason, you know, to
Yeah.
protect ourselves. Those boundaries are important. um,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess that you definitely can evolve to a certain level where you can walk with that degree of empathy and openness and nakedness, um, and hold that, you know,
Yeah.
like
But you gotta be willing to do the work to get to that point and discipline yourself and be steadfast towards that. I mean, it all begins with your own personal. It all begins with the trauma, and everyone's got some kind of trauma. Um, your personal trauma, and then working with your family's trauma, and then down to your ancestral trauma, and then it's like it creates it. It's almost like these matrices that are connected within matrices, and there's even a galactic um, ancestral network to tap into, and that one's like extremely vast. But to begin to do that work, it's like you're going through a series of initiations, and it's through your own internal school of learning. For everyone, it's different, but when you begin to do that work, then those empathic abilities begin to engage more and more, because what you're doing is those energetic imprints, you're actually starting to heal those, and it comes to a pure energy, comes back to the source before all that. And when you do that, it's like, yeah, you're going to put yourself, you're going to be a little bit more vulnerable. And I'm not saying walls are necessary, but I do believe that self-preservation is key, and knowing when to say no. And but there are, again, tapping into these old ancient techniques, they teach you how to be stealthy. So you harness a more invincible type energy, where it's like those energies can pass through you and you're not attached to them.
mm,
And I think that is key for fully embracing that intuitive empath, is to embrace your inner empathic ninja, so to speak.
I think there's
I
something
guess that's what I'm gonna say.
I think
Huh?
there's something even to like people who wear black and like and black being this kind of like protective color, you know? It's like a...
Are you validating your gothiness?
Yeah.
No, but I understand what you're saying, because black is heavily associated with the void. And the more that you tap into those abilities, you're aligning yourself with void energy. Because void energy, when you start to work with that, and that's what they call the Jedis and the Sith, the Force, that's what that is. And when you start to work with what that is, the unknown, and being able to come to that upon each arrival of each moment, then it's like you begin to work with that energy. And the this terminology I keep using, ting jing. This is the here. Let me read you a little something. Let's see where. Okay. Because again, let me tell anyone who's listening, Jing is the primal essence or life force that we have inherited from our parents. Jing gives us our physical strength and power of will, which is electrically transferred to the heart and third eye, empowering the capacity of our eyes to see clearly, both from a linear perspective and interdimensionally. And when I'm referring to Tingjing, it is the power to listen with all the senses, as has been thoroughly eradicated throughout this whole book. So he talks a lot about this. So when you're engaged into those abilities, your Jing, your primal essence, and isn't your background, you're Buddhist, right?
I mean, I've studied more about Buddhism probably than most other esoteric traditions, so I guess you could say that. But
So
I have not studied much about like Qigong or Tai Chi or Taoism, which is, I'm guessing, where this is coming from, right?
Well, what I'm about to talk about is, the Shojin.
The Shojin? No.
It's the fourth and final school. So there's like four main yanas of teaching. Right before that is the Vajrayana, the mystical school.
Right.
But the Shojin is like the final one. But it all talks about just what that is like, it's the primordial state from which all things arise.
Mm-hmm.
And anything and everything, any room you enter, any object you're sitting on, anywhere, everything has that. So when you're tapped into your Ting Jing, it's like you can feel all of what that is. It's sort of like, think of everything having this energetic network, and every object that's touching one another, technically not touching, but everything is all interconnected, and it's like you're tapping in to what that is. So when you're really able to fully feel that, in a way, utilizing these practices and techniques, then it won't be overwhelming. And that seemed, was that what you're kind of like when you were talking about with those experiences with ayahuasca and but you're also aligning yourself with those plant spirits and energies, but you can access all of that without plant medicines.
Yeah.
I got to experience that for the first time last year, when I was doing Vajrayana practices and meditation, where I could just get natural DMT to happen. So I was having experiences as equivalent as ripping a giant bowl of DMT.
Oh yeah, like, well, of course I believe that we have the capacity to tap into those same states of consciousness without using a plant. I think that it's probably part of our natural abilities to be able to do so, but we're just so disconnected from our natural state that we need to induce those states of consciousness through artificial means. But it does sometimes help to have that extra little push, you know, to have like the
Yeah.
force of that plant coming
Well,
through it.
it's not artificial meat,
Well, no, it's not
though. I
artificial,
mean,
but it's external. That's the word I meant to say.
yeah, external.
Yeah.
Yeah, our body has everything that we need to provide. What is it? Would you say you were a breatharian?
A breatharian. I am
Breatharian.
breatharian right this moment because I'm not eating food. I'm only not breatharian when I'm eating food, but otherwise I'm breatharian like all the time.
Yeah. I guess I am too.
Yeah, you're a breatharian right now. Actually, you just don't realize it.
But watch this.
Tea's okay for breatharians.
What would you call this?
It's
My
ineffable.
a tea liquiditarian.
Just labels and symbols and just fingers pointing to the moon. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, about the thing with like the protection. It's like I've known a lot of like heavy black work people, like people that like cover their whole bodies with like really extreme black work tattoos, and just yeah, I've met a lot of these people, and very often they're extremely sensitive and empathetic people, and I think that they're so sensitive that it's like they want to create some kind of like intimidating appearance because it's protective, because they're so sensitive, you know. So I think it can be the same thing with wearing black, that it can be this kind of like protective type. To me, black feels like a protective energy. You know, that's all I can say from my own personal experiences.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I totally agree.
And it looks cool. Like if I was in Star Wars, I would totally be for the Rebel Alliance, like for sure. Like those guys are cool. I like them, but like the Sith outfits are way cooler though. Like, could I wear the Sith outfit?
Yeah.
Could I wear that outfit and still be like, you know, I'd be like undercover.
Yeah.
You know, I just like they have a
Yeah.
way better
Yeah,
fashion
undercover.
designer. You know, the Sith artist is like H.R. Giger's like designing their costumes.
Yeah. I remember my first DMT trip. My friend who had lit up the bowl and was like, help. Because I didn't know what I was doing. He's just like, take a big rip. And it was like a solid like crystal too. It wasn't even like a powder. It was just of it. And just went, oh my God, time slowed down as time was slowing down. And in those time frames, he looked like a Sith Lord. Like he looked like Darth Maul.
He probably was.
I was like, whoa. That was like before time completely went to a stop and hit that like threshold. But yeah, I met a Sith Lord.
You probably smoked DMT with the Sith Lord, which is like pretty cool actually. Not too many people can really say they've done that.
Well, I was in an alternate universe of the best way I could describe it at that time was a Vulcan. Like I was like, oh my God, am I a Vulcan princess? Like a Romulan, I guess that would be more. So when I saw the new Star Trek and they had the Nero with his facial tattoos and that ship, I was like, ooh, that was my first DMT trip. I was like, they're spot on about that. Yeah, Sith Lord, Romulans. And then Avi turned into a very powerful interdimensional shaman. Yeah.
Avi's cat is a very powerful interdimensional shaman.
Oh yeah, Lulu. Oh my gosh.
Avi has one of the craziest cats I think I've probably ever encountered.
Yeah, she's an interesting cat. Her and I we got married a long time ago.
Wow, that's congratulations. Let's talk about reclaiming your dream uh, hive. Let's
Oh,
talk about reclaiming your
okay.
dream hive, and let's talk about accessing the seer within.
Okay. Well, we were kind of touching on it just then when we were talking about the intuitive empath, because the seer within is that. It's exactly what that is. Because you're seeing more than just like a visual. It's like it's that full connected body consciousness. Like you're seeing
Mm-hmm.
the world itself through all the many eyes of what it is. Being connected in that way. But okay, the dream hive, so to speak, the dream compartments. Think of it like a honeycomb, um, like a giant hive, all these honeycomb compartments. You got the little bees in there that are like, growing. Um, the dream realm. I don't know. I kind of see it like that, and I always have. And it's interesting coming across Luhan again, teacher. He he talks about it, and reclaiming it again goes again. We touched all on this, but yeah, going into those realms and pulling back those, bringing back your energetic imprint, not getting lost in those realms, even within. Because sometimes I used to deal with this where second attention would be merged with first attention, meaning this realm being overlapped with the dream realm sometimes and not being able to differentiate. Um, so when you begin to harness back that energy within those realms, and it's not just a realm. It's so hard to explain because it's not where you just go to sleep and you're there. It can even happen like right now as you and I are speaking. Um, let me give you an example. Like imagine you're out in the woods and you see a shadow of something that just darts through the woods, but you feel this overwhelming, like, oh my God, like, what was that? And then you go there and you chase after it, and then you start to see the shadow of what looks like a person standing there, and then your mind is like kind of freaked out because it's like, oh my gosh, there's like a person there standing there. And then as the moonlight begins to shine on it, you just see that it's a stump.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that again that's an example of like the merging of
Inner and outer.
the realm
Yeah.
of the dream to first attention.
Yeah, I had an experience
Um,
like that. I think it was yesterday, where they're like cops that hang out on the corners in Bali, and they try to uh, basically take tourist money who aren't wearing helmets, and they specifically target tourists. It's like they're not even real police. They just want to steal your money. And I never wear a helmet when I'm driving my bike around. And there's like this one corner where there are often police, and I was like driving up and I swear I saw like police on the corner, and I was like, oh fuck. But it turned out that it wasn't. Like there was just like some guys like sitting on their bikes like parked there. But in my mind, like I saw it. I actually saw it. You know what I mean? It was like my mind
yeah.
like putting the pieces together, like constructing an image in my mind that it wasn't actually.
Well, what you were seeing was a parallel reality. That's
Yeah, maybe. Because like I really
or your
man,
parallel dream
I
state.
I had a really trippy experience once. I'm just remembering this. I haven't thought about it in a while. When I was in British Columbia some years ago, and I was driving. It was like late at night, and I had just come back from this festival, so I hadn't really slept, and I had been perhaps imbibing in some things. And I was with this girl I was seeing at the time, and we were driving on this road, and I slowed down as I was driving on this road. It's like deep in the woods, like because there was like construction. There was somebody with like a sign that said to stop, and there were like blinking lights, and it was like they were doing construction in the road. And I saw this, and I slowed down accordingly. And the girl I was with, she saw it too. But as we like approached the point that my mind perceived that there was this thing happening, it wasn't there. It was like it was there and then it disappeared. It was totally bizarre. And we both saw it. It was like a joint hallucination. It was very strange. But it's kind of like what you're talking about. It could very well have been an insight into this parallel dimension, where in that parallel dimension there actually was this construction going on. Because otherwise, why would I even assume that in the middle of a highway, like out of just randomly at this one particular point? Like, why would my mind even construct that? And why did we both see it? It was a really strange experience.
Yeah. My friend had a similar, well, not similar experience, but her and her son both saw this portal open up while they're driving, and a dragon came out. And they were, the way she was like, I don't know what happened, but yeah, they both ended up seeing it. It was like a joint hallucination or a joint vision, joint dream, because we're all having a collective dream, a collective like global dream. And I think when that joint like second attention happens with you and another person, that's when like the veil gets pulled back and that we are in a lucid dream.
Yeah.
Like a giant lucid dream. And there's many compartments to what that is, the dream hive, if you want to call it that. I always think of like the little honeycombs, like little I don't know. But anyways, yeah, it's like you're seeing these parallel realities, parallel dreams, but they're just as real as like you and I sitting here talking right now, and you being in your space, I being in my space. Like they're real. We are only seeing like a 10% of, I guess, this world, this reality, and there's so much to it. But that's why like psychedelics helps you tap into like your multidimensional self, and it's almost like a reminder that you always have been that, you know.
Well, lucid dreaming too is another way of tapping into that multidimensionality, and because it's like, who are you in the dream? Who are you in that bed that you're in? Like, how can you be both simultaneously? It's because there's multiple layers to the self that we are, and we exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously.
It's fascinating.
I think it's fascinating.
It's magical.
It is kind of magical, though. It's just love it.
It is.
I believe in magic. Yeah. I'll go on the record. I'll say it. People can unfollow me. Yeah. They can unfollow me. They can never watch any of these conversations again. They're like, man, I don't know. Just discredits everything. I'm a psychedelic visionary artist. I can say basically anything, and nothing I could really ever say would ever disqualify me from from my occupation.
Well, I mean, the reason why you believe in magic is because you're a magi.
Yes.
You know what the magi is?
A magical motherfucker. That's what a magi is.
Yeah, they're magicians, but they originally stemmed from all the way like down to ancient Persia. I guess we can read about it even further. But they were the kings and queens magician. I mean, they were kings and queens that were magicians. If that makes sense. But yeah, just
yes.
So you're tapping into parallel reality of that. I see the magi in you.
Yeah. Yes, not just a magician, but a king magician. That is correct. Bow down to my glory. or fear my
A
might.
corona magician in the Spanish term for king.
What?
Sorry, I took it there.
What did you say?
A corona magician, which just means it means king. That's all.
Corona is crown, I thought.
Yeah, crown, you know, but the etymology goes to king.
The magician archetype in the tarot, it relates to it's ruled by the planet Mercury, which represents language and communication, and the way that we're able to construct realities through the symbol systems that we use. So it's like magic is our our words spelling, because you can influence people's reality by giving them you basically construct the reality in the words that we use.
Yeah. So when you say good morning, is that a living or a dead word? Think about it. Or a dead statement or a living statement?
It feels kind of like a dead statement, but I don't exactly know what you're getting at.
This
Did
is
you hear
where
what I said?
etymology comes in, and especially like if you want to, the you break down the word morning, morte. It's basically it's a dead word. Same thing, like think of like mortgage. You know what that basically says? It's a death pledge. Morte, gauge. A gauge is a pledge. So when you actually, this is the interesting thing. This is we're about to jump down a wormhole. Hold on, I gotta plug in my phone.
I have another thought about that too. Something to add to this.
I wonder where I can plug this in at. I should put it over here. But yeah, words play a huge role in magic. Spelling, like again, to spell something, spell your name. I don't know if this cord will reach. Oh wait, I can plug it into this. So my friend took me down a wormhole of, I don't know how genuine it is. It's like our birth certificates are supposedly a bond. That's like a whole nother kind of wormhole to go down. But he was teaching me about like the etymology and understanding, even in the court system, that like your I guess I should probably play that. I keep it. So in the court system, when you look at a piece of paper and your name's spelled out, like my full name is actually Olivia Page. Or actually the proper term would be Olivia Page, daughter of Sydney, House of Curry. That's the old English way. Old proper English.
Be careful, because now we all have access. We can do some real
to my name
magic now.
So, and my birth certificate, Curry, is all in caps, and it has a lower standing. So anything in the courts, I mean, all the Masons know about this, especially like if you're a judge. If anything that's in like lowercase has a higher standing. So on my birth certificate, Olivia Page is all in lowercase. Curry, oh shit. I'm on this like cushion that's like it's a high-rise meditation cushion.
You be careful.
Okay.
You be careful over there.
Oh my god. Okay. Woo! I'm back. What was I doing? Oh my god, I forgot to plug it in. Okay, that's what I have to do it this way. Oh my god. Okay. Here we go.
Can I say something that's related to what you're saying?
I have the wrong cord.
With the good morning thing?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know where the term living room comes from?
Living room?
Yeah.
Educate me.
Okay, so like the living room used to be called the parlor, and when people would have wakes at their houses, and the dead body would be put in the parlor, which was the original name for living room. And when the kind of death industry started to rise and they started having like the area that you would actually go to, you'd attend a funeral in a separate space.
Is this on Midnight Gospel?
It was on one of Duncan's podcasts, but anyway, yeah.
Okay.
So they invented the word living room to basically say, like, this isn't where you put the dead body. Instead, we have this other area. I guess it's, the, what is it, the funeral parlor or something like that. But yeah, it was to distinguish from the place that you would ordinarily go to mourn your dead.
That's crazy. I mean, everything is I mean,
Oh shit!
there's
we
a
only
lot
have
in
a
the
minute
whole
left.
death scenario. Okay. I only have a minute left.
Yeah, I mean, we can go back on if you want and continue this conversation.
At least 14 people like our conversation.
Dude, these 14 people love our conversation. I think like is an understatement.
Anyone watching, do you like our conversation? So good morning. Good morning. Good day. Yeah, day etymology stems from the word God. So when you say like good day to someone, you're like, good God. Oh man. Yeah, this whole black magic of a system of a matrix, the contracts of the matrix.
You got
so
20 seconds. Can you
oh my god. Okay.
Let's see it. Let's see what you got.
You're either the debtor, or the creditor.
Let's
or the executor.
What have you been up to these last 40 seconds?
Went to use the restroom.
That's wild.
I know.
Wow. Is that one of those things that mortal people do? I've heard about this. I've heard about people doing that, but not me, because I'm breatharian. So yeah, there's no waste. There's no waste because I don't consume. So
it's like saying you're air.
Ether, actually.
You don't look like a raisin right now. Shriveled up. No water.
I just absorb the water through osmosis. I'm just actually, like my experience with breatharians is I've only ever really had one experience with a breatharian, and it was this guy. I did a number of ayahuasca ceremonies in Bali like 4 years ago, and there was this one Chinese guy that was at like all the ceremonies. And so at the beginning of the ceremony, we were to name one word as our intention. So as we went around the space, it's things like trust or surrender or love or whatever. And the talking stick gets passed to this Chinese guy, and every single time, like I did like 4 ceremonies with this guy, he's like, I will strengthen my dedication to breatharianism. And says it like that. He could have reduced it to one word, and he could have been like dedication or whatever. But no, he had to announce to the whole group that he was breatharian. And yeah, like before the ceremony, he's like, yeah, it's been like 3 weeks since I've eaten anything. Like, I feel great. Like, he was really proud about his breatharianism and had a very large ego attachment to it. And
but
this
wait,
guy
he
always
had the medicine though, right?
I guess that breatharian.
He's not technically breatharian.
Well, he was doing it with the intention of strengthening his dedication to breatharianism. But this guy always got like wrecked during the ceremonies. He always had like the hardest trips and was like, yeah, always requiring the support of many people, and was like dealing with a lot of intense emotional stuff. And then I just remember like the next morning seeing him like eating like just straight butter out of the kitchen and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
And I was like, this guy, yeah. So he kind of,
So was he really breatharian, or was he just like lying
he
to
was
himself?
trying, probably both. I mean, he was yeah, he was an intense one.
Oh, I would imagine. Yeah. I mean, the few
But yeah,
times where I would journey and not eat anything, yeah, they'd be, oh my God, it'd be really powerful.
I did that once. Yeah, I fasted before an ayahuasca ceremony for like several days. It was pretty
How many days?
intense. Yeah, like 3 days.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, I know that like,
Not like
it's like the 5th
3 weeks.
day, you're on a cellular level, your body starts to, so like if you have any like bruises or scars, it actually begins to the self-healing process. I think like
Yeah,
the 5th day or something. I guess it could vary from person to person, but yeah, to have that process with ayahuasca, yeah, powerful.
yeah. I've done some longer fasts, and it always feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you tap into a certain place, your body adjusts to it, and then you're kind of just in this heightened, almost like slightly altered state by virtue of fasting. It's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit like sleep deprivation, I guess. Same kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it can be a little intense. I've
I
done
like
it
it.
before, but still, I'm just like, I love my tea.
Yeah. Yeah, I love eating. Have you ever had durian before?
Yeah, we have a world market here that's strangely open, and there's still a lot of people that go. I live in Georgia, mind you, everything's open. Um, the durian fruit that I think they stopped supplying it there, but every time you get it, they'd have it frozen. You'd eat it, and oh my gosh, it was so amazing. But by like the 3rd or 2nd day, it would smell like bad vagina smell or something.
Yeah, the smell is an acquired taste for sure, but they have, yeah, certain kinds of durian here that are just like mind-blowingly delicious. I don't know what other durians of the world are like, but the durian here in Bali is, when you get a good one, it's like the most amazing thing ever. Like my whole body just like, it's like I can't even maintain my stream of thought while I'm eating it. It's like an
Well, you're
orgasm.
eating, yeah, you're eating Earth's orgasms. That fruit is that. Fruit is Earth's orgasms.
Fruit is earth orgasms.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna subtitle this.
Fruit is Earth's orgasms. So I had an experience on San Pedro and was on the come down. My friend was always like, you gotta have pineapple. So I had pineapple, and I like bit into the pineapple, and I was just like frozen, and and my sister was like, are you okay? And I was like, it's just like electricity just like went all into my cheeks and just like held the smile, and I almost couldn't come out of it because it was just like pure electricity and then around my taste buds. But it was such a powerful experience that I ended up writing a poem about it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty good poem too.
You can only read the poem while you're eating pineapple, though. That's the thing.
This is true.
You know, you can't just like whip that poem out of nowhere. It's like a performance.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever had the seed that reverses your taste buds?
No.
There's like, I don't know what it's called, but it's like a seed and it only lasts like 15 minutes. It reverses your taste buds, and lemons will become the sweetest thing ever. Like lemons taste so good on it. Um, it like reverses all your taste buds.
Hmm.
You should try it if you've never had that.
I
Miracle fruit
remember.
is what it is. I think it's called miracle. Is it miracle fruit? Maybe it's a seed. I thought
I
it was.
remember. I remember hearing about this substance that was one of the many, many psychedelics that Sasha Shulgin engineered, and I forget what it was called, but this particular substance only affected your hearing. So it's like visually and everything else, it's basically normal. But like piano sound like way out of tune, and like it's just like
I don't know
weird
if I'd like that.
auditory distortions. I
Yeah.
don't know if I would either, but it's pretty interesting. It's unusual. It's
So
definitely
I
novel.
wonder if if you took that and you went into a sensory sound deprivation, how you'd be hearing your heartbeat. Would it distort like all the sounds and your insides?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it would
That's
do. Now,
crazy.
the real question is, if you give that to a deaf person, what happens? That's the interesting question.
Did they ever do any studies with that?
It's
No.
such an obscure substance. There's like, other than what studies Sasha Shulgin did initially, and the very, very, very small amount of people who have experimented with it afterwards. There's never been any research done about it, and there probably won't ever be.
Oh.
Like why would, you know, you have to think about how the systems that fund research think. Like, why would they want to give money to research just like what happens when you give a deaf person a psychedelic that makes trippy sounds without there being like some kind of reason why they would want to study that seems like essential or important.
Well, not unless they had someone personally in their life that they wanted to help. Maybe. Probably be a reason.
Yeah, wouldn't that be wild if like through taking this substance deaf people could hear, but it's not even through the um like the actual mechanical function of their ears, and instead it's like their third ear, they're hearing through their third ear.
Third ear. That'd be I don't know. Crazy.
It's crazy.
You're crazy, man. You're crazy. We're all crazy. Oh, I'm all out
Well,
of tea. I probably drank enough tea.
it's like 1 a.m. here. What time is it there? It's 1 p.m.
Yeah, it's
We're
probably
like
more.
you're like totally on the other side of the world for me.
Yeah. Just a suggestion. I think you should interview. Do you remember Tor? Have just conversate with this guy. You remember Tor? You stayed at his place at Art Basel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
He's interesting.
yeah, he could probably do your whole Vedic astrology. I mean, he does Vedic astrology, medical qigong practitioner, and that whole topic what we were touching on with magic, and even before the video started shut down, where I was talking about the debtor and the creditor and all of that, like he's like a plethora of knowledge on that. He's been like blowing my mind left and right on that whole thing and with etymology, and I'm just like woo. But yeah.
Right on. Yeah. There's gonna come a time where I run out of people to speak to and need to find new people.
Yeah.
For
he's
now,
not
I
a
have.
visionary artist, but he's a
You don't have to be a visionary artist for me to want to talk to people. I don't only talk to visionary artists.
I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with some of the videos. So you are interviewing other people who are other different.
I interviewed Michael Stewart Annie yesterday, who was a jungle guide for 30 years and lived among practically uncontacted tribes in the Amazon.
Oh,
And
cool.
he's an interesting guy that has a really unique perspective on life as a result of spending time with these people that have a very different worldview than we do.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to tune into that. You had that one saved?
I'm going to post all of these eventually. It's just taking me a long time because I have many. I'm recording many per week, and so it's taking me longer to edit and upload them than I would hope. But I'm trying to post about one per week, maybe two per week.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You
So
have your
no,
own
not
like
just vision.
Channel 6
Yeah,
News, Jake Cobran, and just
it's the anti-news.
the anti-news.
Yeah,
What number of the news channel would you choose?
11.
Oh, 1111. Channel 1111.
Channel 11. Um, yeah,
yeah, uncontacted tribes. That's cool.
yeah, it's cool. And contacted
Well,
tribes.
he contacted them.
He totally did. Oh
He
man.
somehow did. I mean, if he was there. Oh, you mean like ones that haven't been touched by the missionaries and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, he's really. I guess that there's. I didn't get into it too deeply with him, but I have watched some of his videos about it, and it seems like there are these Christian missionaries who have this kind of prophecy about the conversion of 2,000 or 3,000 tribes that would bring about this return of a Messiah. So they go in,
No.
and then they bring a lot of diseases. Like
Yeah.
I guess that he just helped successfully thwart the contact of some of these last remaining tribes. And it's like in the middle of a pandemic, and these people are very isolated, so their immune systems are specific. Like they have a more narrow immune system than we do because we're exposed to all this stuff. So it's like you could bring COVID-19 to these tribes and just decimate them and not even realize it.
Horrible to think about.
But he was saying that it's somewhat intentional that they bring these diseases to these tribal people, and they also come bearing pharmaceutical cures, and they play like they make themselves seem godlike by like, we can save you, if you accept Jesus Christ into your life or whatever it is. I think it does have a religious motivation to it, and then they give them antibiotics or pharmaceuticals that can cure them of these things, and that's how they convert these whole populations of people.
Dude, that's sad.
Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah, I know that my friend, he's gone down to the Sequoia tribe. The Sequoia tribe, they try to like not be a part of the whole like ayahuasca tourism. I know Daniel Pinchbeck wrote about them in his book briefly. And and I'll never forget it because I was like, there's one tribe I definitely want to go down and meet that whole family and that lineage. It would be the Sequoia, because they're one of the few that I have read or heard that literally brings in seeds from other dimensions. And their lineage, though, they've had missionaries come down, and their children, they're just like taking the Jesus route. But now some of them that have gotten older, there's one that had like some kind of cancer illness, was totally against taking the yahe and all of that. And then he was like, well, this is the last case scenario, whatever, I'll take it. His grandfather cures him in one ceremony. It was like some kind of like cancer or something. But yeah, they their whole medicine cabinet, the yahe plants that they have down there are really old, to where it stopped blooming flowers. They have like a dozen different ones of those plants. And yahe just means like plants that get you high, but it's like like 12 different like ayahuasca style. And then they have other plants too, like my friend, when he went down there, they were telling him about a ceremony where spirit was like, okay guys, you got to weave these baskets because we're going to give you some more seeds from these botanical dimensions. God, botanical dimensions somewhere. But anyways, they after the ceremony, they weave these baskets. And then the next ceremony that they had, it just started raining down these like miniature like coconut seeds, and they fell in the basket. They're falling on the floor, and everyone who was in the ceremony were trying to pocket them, and just like you know, anything that went into the pockets or on the floor in the morning were gone, but everything that was in the baskets remained. And then those seeds they started to utilize in ceremony to get everyone to like basically purge, get all that stuff out first before you start to really journey into the visionary aspect with the yahe plants. So it was more of like, let's handle the body first, and then now we'll go into the visionary realms of that. But they're also connected to Graham Hancock in his new book. He was talking about how that there is an ancient civilization due to I think it's like the Petra Terra soil that has a certain type of bacteria in there, makes it super rich. And from his understanding is that there is a advanced civilization that pretty much grew the Amazon. So it was like the ultimate ancient civilization that was highly tapped into permaculture. And but this tribe, Sequoia tribe, they speak about them, and I think they call them like the weenie pie, the weenie pie or something. But they're still like connected to these beings in another dimension, but they're a part of the first civilizations that were in the Amazon and
Wow.
help grow the botanical dimensions, essentially.
Yeah, I forget who is tossing around this idea, but the idea that the Amazon is actually something that people cultivated in large part, which is fascinating to think about. Like, what if it isn't a fully natural thing, but it's actually been heavily engineered by humans?
I wouldn't be surprised. I know in the Antarctica there's supposedly a jungle there under the ice. I don't know. I don't know too much
Who told
about
you that?
Antarctica. Huh?
Who told you that?
Who told me that? Oh,
Yeah.
my dad was telling me about that. I don't know if it was maybe some article I read or something, but
I don't
I
know.
wouldn't be surprised.
Nothing would surprise me nowadays.
Yeah. It's so fun. It's so funny.
Today the Pentagon released previously confidential footage of UFOs and basically acknowledged that there are advanced aircrafts that they've witnessed, that they have footage of, that they don't really know what it is. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting thing. But like, even that like is not in any way. It's not really that exciting or impactful for me to hear, because that idea is already so saturated. Like, it's not a new idea that there are UFOs. It's not like, oh wow, I never heard of that. It's like, duh.
Well, for the
Everybody
longest time, like NASA and all, they've been putting out breadcrumbs just here and there about all this too. I think this, it's interesting because someone posted, maybe it was you or someone, maybe it was Nova, I don't know, but she was like, yeah, or posting about the Pentagon releasing and all of this, but it's like no one notices because it doesn't have like Corona in the headlines.
Well, it's either that or it's just so normalized.
Yeah. Which is probably
Like,
why they've been waiting to release it.
I think back in the 1960s, to talk about UFOs and aliens, that was like deep conspiracy stuff. But nowadays, in the year 2020, it's not really that deeply conspiratorial to talk about thinking that there might be other beings in the galaxy that might have advanced aircrafts. Or, I mean, that's just one possible explanation. It could also be, it could be so many things. It could be drones. They could be, it could be an artificial intelligence. We don't really know what that is. But just the existence of UFOs is not really a conspiracy now. I think that most people would agree that there are UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a time where like if you said that, people would look at you like you were totally crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was one of those people.
Thank
Looking
God I'm a
looking crazy to
psychedelic
everyone.
visionary artist,
Huh?
so I can't say anything that would make me seem too wacky, because everybody knows that psychedelic visionary artists are like, you know, kind of a little bit crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
There's a
there's a whole.
story.
I mean, you don't want to get unfriended. I don't know. You're not on Facebook. People are lashing out against the visionary art realm. They're just like, you know, I guess again because you're like now's the time for stepping into the leadership. But the moment they post anything that's somewhat conspiracy or you know just that ideology, people they're just like you get attacked. So I don't even. If it's not music and art, I'm just not even gonna you know do that.
I'm way ahead of that game. Like I don't even have a Facebook. You can't even unfriend me because I just unfriended everybody by deleting my Facebook.
Yeah.
But
It's smart. That's smart. I definitely deactivate mine every now and then, which I should probably do soon.
I'm so grateful that I don't have a Facebook right now. I mean, occasionally it's nice to have it as a means to contact certain people, but it affects my consciousness in such a negative way.
Yeah.
You know, and right now I think it's just like a cesspool of fear and paranoia and arguments and people with way too much time on their hands that don't know how to self-soothe or emotionally regulate, just regurgitating their unprocessed traumas onto the internet.
Oh yeah.
And
See a lot of that.
yeah, I'm really grateful that I don't have to deal with that. Instagram's pretty curated. You know, my Instagram feed is mostly just art and people that I find interesting. So I don't get a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Yeah, you're inspiring me to deactivate my Facebook. I mean, a lot of it
Do
I
it.
was doing the Zoom stuff on it. So that's why I kept it going. I deactivated at the beginning of the quarantine. And then people were like, come on, we're going to do Zoom and we're just pull this together and do that. So I reactivated it.
Yeah. I just think it's not good. I don't think
Yeah.
it's a positive. I mean, it's nice to be able to have contact with so many people, but I've found that since deactivating my Facebook, there's very little that I feel any lack around. I used to use it to advertise my art and to sell things and things like that, but Facebook has dramatically reduced the amount of exposure that a post gets anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, as even
Not unless
that
you
was my
pay.
excuse for
Then
my
you
for
pay, and
launching.
then they're like, "Oh, okay, we'll try."
Even if you pay, they've made it way worse than it used to be.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
weird.
don't know.
It's very
I
regulated
don't like
now.
it. I don't like its tacky white and blue color scheme. I don't like how it hijacks my dopamine. I don't like how it turns me into one of like Pavlov's dogs, just needing to attack every little notification, constantly check it for notifications. It wires me like some kind of weird addict, and I don't like it. And I feel way more free when I'm not on it. And my life
Yeah,
only improves. It doesn't seem to have any kind of negative detractor for not having a Facebook. And people that really want to get a hold of me, they can get a hold of me in a variety of different ways other than Facebook. And it doesn't seem to have ever been really much of an impediment to any kind of contact that is actually essential.
yeah. You still have your like page.
Yeah, but the only way that I can access it is through my dad's account, and I barely check it.
Yeah, through your dad's account. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think that I set him up as like an admin at some point because I
Ah.
knew this would happen. See, I could, saw it happening.
There just needs to be a
Yeah,
whole new social media platform that, you know, it's different.
Snapseed or not? Is that what people are? No, not Snapseed. What's it called? TikTok. People
TikTok?
are the kids are into TikTok. nowadays.
Oh yeah, I see. That's where all the actors and actresses' careers are collapsing. That's the platform that collapses it, right?
What do you mean? What's
Isn't that
happening?
what they've gone to? Is that a lot of the actors and the actresses they've gone to TikTok now, and they've kind of destroyed their. It's like they're seeking attention,
Celebrities are seeking attention.
like immensely, and some of the content apparently they're putting out is like crazy.
I think that like the attention must just be a drug, you know? And it's like if you've had such a strong dose of attention for so long as like a major celebrity and just like so much attention, and then the minute that gets diverted, it's like you must have withdrawal symptoms.
Oh yeah, so they're
It's
probably
like
experiencing
quitting heroin or like quitting cocaine or something like that.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
probably what the case is. But yeah, I'm not gonna go to TikTok. No TikTok for me. I know Adam Apollo. He was working on some kind of like social media network. My friend Josh showed me a glimpse of something he was working on. It looked really dope and like a cool interface. Um,
What is the difference and why do we need it? Why do we need another social network? What's wrong with the
why?
social networks we
I
have
think that
already?
well, first we need one that's not going to have advertisements and that has a different algorithm, input. There's one out already called Nectar. I was kind of checking it out. It has no advertisements. It doesn't have those algorithms.
Have you seen this one that's called The Pattern?
The pattern?
So The Pattern, I had this idea and then somebody made it. I guess people receive ideas at the same time, but the idea is that you put your birthday and your place of birth, your astrological details, and it creates pairings socially through your astrology. So you can add a friend and it compares your astrology to that person. It's a social network. It's called The Pattern.
Is it based off of Western astrology?
Yes, based off of Western astrology.
I like Vedic astrology. It's a little bit more on point.
Well,
But
you can
there's
make your own
AstroSeek,
social network.
astroseek.com. I think it's like a dating site or something. I could be wrong. Let's try to pair you up astrologically.
I met a guy in Peru that was the former head of a Golden Lodge Dawn. What is it? The Golden Dawn. He was the head of one of the lodges of the Golden Dawn in like England, and then he left England and then moved off to this tiny little town in the Sacred Valley where he owns like a coffee shop now. But he still has this epic library of books. Anyway, he attempted to create a dating site that paired people up based on astrology. But
And
you
what
know,
happened?
like,
You just didn't want to do it?
no, he did it. Like, I think
Oh,
it's there. It's just nobody used it. It's like old and outdated. It looks like it was made in 1998. You know, um, but yeah, I mean, people have been paired up based on their astrology for like thousands of years in India and in other places, and it seems to work pretty well.
Aren't you? I think because you're an Aries and Sun, so Vedic, you're probably a Pisces Sun.
Yeah, my chart is really dominated by Pisces in my Vedic chart. I think that in Vedic astrology, I have Pisces Sun. I think I have an Aquarius moon, and I think that I possibly also have like Pisces rising or something like that. And in Western astrology, I have Aries sun, Pisces moon, and Aries rising. I know a lot more about my Western astrology than I do my Vedic astrology. Although I have had my Vedic astrology, my gene keys, my human design, my Mayan astrology, my Balinese astrology, my all everything that my Myers Briggs, uh,
Have you
just
heard of the
everything that you need to
Draconian
know.
astrology? I think it's called Dra- it's Dra- Draconian or maybe Draconian.
I haven't, but I need to know that. That one. That will be the one profile that when I learn it, everything will just make sense now. Because, my Western Vedic astrology, my Mayan astrology, my gene keys, and my human design, and my Myers-Briggs, and what's the other one called? The Enneagram. All these
Yeah.
assessment tests really didn't give me the full comprehensive
Maybe this is the one.
view of
It could be the
myself.
one.
It
But
could
you
be the
gotta get
one.
Thor to do your Vedic. He will rip you apart in like a good way.
I
So you
like to
can fully
rest
see
in the
yourself.
mystery. I don't want to be able
You
to
want to
be.
leave it back there?
Yeah. I mean, I subscribe to that stuff, but only I do. I mean, I personally, I can at least acknowledge the accuracy of some of those things,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not everything, and it's
Yeah.
very complex because it's not just like, oh, you're an Aries. It's like the interrelationship of all the different planets and the houses. It's a
Yeah.
deep subject that I know almost nothing about. I
You
know
need to
more than
scratch the
most
surface
people,
of
and I
it.
know.
Oh my God. It's like your brain becomes super fractile because Vedic astrology is like cycles upon cycles upon cycles, and everything is on a very accurate, intricate degree. That's why like so let me give an example. My moon is in Aries, but my nakshatra is the very first one. It's a Shwani. And the nakshatras are like the stars, the very specific points in the constellation. So it's like, and then it's also working with the moon, which is the closest celestial body to the earth. Do you ever wonder though that like the moment that you're born, that exact moment in time, that the celestial bodies, due to their alignment in the sky, that you are receiving that light. It's like you're getting star transmission of what that is, because the stars are communicating all the time, and it's sort of like you are having that conversation that gets imprinted in the moment that you're born, and it changes over time, obviously, as you get older and everything begins to shift. But there's this sort of like star language that's always speaking through you, like cosmo intelligence, and each intricate moment in time. Yes, yes. I just
I'm
like
down.
Vedic because it's like very on point with that.
Yeah, it's a deep and it's a misunderstood subject. I think people tend to orient towards it in a very superficial way, where they see it's their horoscope, and if you're Aries, then you're gonna be like this. It's like you can't just generalize somebody based on their sun sign. It's just like the tip
Yeah.
of the iceberg, like the position of somebody's like Mars could have a greater impact on their personality than their sun sign.
Yeah.
So they're like, my sun is in Aries, my Mars is in Cancer. It's hard to say. I mean, I definitely have an influence of both, and I can't. I wouldn't be who I am without with the exclusion of one or the other. But most people are just like, oh, I'm a Gemini, or like whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's. I think everyone wants to see things in a narrow way, and like, but if you really begin to dabble with it, it helps to open that multi-dimensional thinking of that process. So, example again, like what you're just telling me, or in my moon in Aries, what also is going to dictate whatever certain moment in time on day of Wednesday ruled by Mars at this very specific initiation of this time. You're also going to deal with the house that is ruling that, like say it's, I think it's in the seventh house. So then also whatever is in your actual seventh house and what rules the seventh house is going to dictate that as well. So there's so many like finite intricacies of what that is that dictates. It's never like one way or the other. Think of it like the tarot of astrology versus the oracle deck, which is how I see the Western astrology.
For sure. And the tarot in the traditional sense is deeply interlinked with astrology, actually. And yeah, oracle cards.
Oracle cards, them oracle cards. You can just
If they make people feel good, it's fine.
yeah.
It's not a real tarot deck though.
I have a
You can call it a tarot deck.
Book by Lujan Mantis. I opened this up earlier today. I'll read you this. It's like one of those ones you can just open up and read a little page. To somebody, you have to be nobody. And to be nobody gives you the ability to read the feelings of your brothers and sisters' desires within your own heart. This is the way that we are meant to function as symbiotic empaths. Yeah.
You know what that makes me think about is I've been listening to this audiobook, Power versus Force, which is about, it's this guy, Dr. David Hawkins, who's a kinesiologist, but he basically used kinesiology to calibrate the frequency of different emotional states. And you can also use it to calibrate the energy of pretty much anything. But he basically found that there are certain high frequency states that are like love or courage, etc. They're constructive states, and the lower states like anger, fear, sadness, whatever. And high energy attractors just seem to be more oriented towards regeneration and growth and health and life, basically. So if you align yourself with high energy attractors, if you create an emotional pattern of yourself that's high energy, then you're just naturally going to be guided by the forces of nature, which is geared towards success and preservation. So there's a line in there that was like, you have to become somebody to become nobody. It's because egotism and attachment and fear and anxiety and all of that stuff that comes with becoming somebody in your eyes is a very low energy. It's very low energy versus to be nobody, to be selfless, to be of service, to be, to align with a higher definition of self. That's a very high energy attractor.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore you're going to have much more success by being aligned in that way.
What's this guy's name?
Dr. David Hawkins.
Oh, Dr. David. I've heard of him.
Yeah, it's good.
Maybe
It's really.
I don't know. Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. It's interesting because it's kind of funny, like how, power in that way works. It's like the most powerful is the most subtle.
Yeah, well, that's what he's saying. I mean, his definition of power is like the way a flower grows towards the sun. The sun has power, but the sun isn't forcing the flower to grow towards it. It's a natural attractor.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Force is like when you're going against resistance and there's all this fear and attachment, and manipulation attributed to it. So it's a, secretive, concealing, manipulative type thing. And it's typically for the benefit of a small individual against the needs and desires of others, rather than a high energy attractor is to align yourself with a motivation that is for the good of the whole, often at the sacrifice of your own interests, you know, like putting your own interests below that of the greater good. That's a very high energy
Yeah, being of
attractor.
service.
Being of service, yeah.
Yeah. You're talking about like, again, with the subtle energies, that's within everything, the world around you. And when you're tapped into it, you're in a state of neutrality. Yeah.
Neutrality.
Neutrality.
Cats like it.
Yeah.
You want to talk
They
more about cats?
talk more about cats?
Yeah, we have approximately 10 more minutes.
Well, they're Zen masters. They are Zen masters.
Does anyone have any questions for Olivia about cats specifically?
There's a lot of people joining. They probably missed half the conversation.
I mean, we've been talking for almost 3 hours, so they probably missed a lot more than half.
Well, it's almost like, yeah, it was somewhat of an interview, but it's like catching up, conversating. I missed you.
Yeah, I missed you too.
There's no
I
questions.
mean, there's no pressure to these conversations anyway.
Yeah.
I want them to unfold organically, and I can always, like, I have enough data now that I can basically make you say anything I want using certain computer programs. So I'll just rewrite the whole conversation.
There you go. Oh wait, they're moving. They're going so fast. How many cats do I have? I don't have any right now.
Are you allergic to cats?
No.
Okay.
I'll have friends come and stay within my space. This like really cool little dojo of a space, and there's like cat spirits here, and they'll experience it. They're like, "Do you have a cat?" And I'm like, "No, I don't have a cat, but there's definitely like spirit cats here." And my friend woke up in the middle of the night and said there was a cat licking his face. And my sister, one day, she was like, I don't mean to alarm you, but there was a tall, like, humanoid cat being up at the top of your stairs. And I was like, I know. She's like, well, I couldn't expect anything less. Yeah. So I have cats in that sense.
All
Yeah,
right.
cats have me. That's it. That's
I'm gonna pin this comment. So yeah, that ends the cat portion of our question and answer.
okay.
I think that we've reached our cat quota for this conversation,
Damn.
and now we open the questions for all additional questions, or if you have any recommendations for subjects that you want to hear a discourse between Olivia and I about, we can also do that. I'm good at improvisation. I think Olivia is also. Olivia also could recite any songs you wish to hear. So just write your requests in the comment section. And yeah, Olivia would be happy to perform any
Wait,
song you
what?
want to. What?
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy.
That
There we go.
wasn't
I performed
that
the song.
wasn't an official request.
I'm not good at karaoke. Just not.
You need to ingest more alcohol when you do karaoke, if that's what you're saying. Because the point of karaoke is not to be good at singing. The point of karaoke is to have fun and to be ridiculous.
Well, I went to a karaoke church one time and they were like very supportive and they sang with me and I only had like one beer. And I was like, I did it. I think it was like Eve 6, Inside Out. Yeah, chose that song.
Do you know any John Legend songs?
No.
Yeah, neither do I. Neither do I. We can always I'll edit this out. Don't worry.
You're
I'll
gonna
make
edit
it.
it out.
Yeah,
If
no, I'll make it
people tuning in, check out this guy. I don't know, did it reverse it? Is people
totally
reading it
backwards.
backwards? Luhan Mantis. Yeah, check out his work.
You should have had your book printed backwards just for the sake of this conversation.
Yeah.
I've had all of my books printed in reverse so that I can show them to the camera, just in case they come up in conversation on these lives.
Well, what
My
I could
whole
do is
library.
hold it and then have a mirror and then like kind of like angle it and then the mirror would read it that way. Or this way.
Yeah, I have my best scientist working on a device for that right now, actually. I got my team on it. I'm working on it.
A country song?
Sing the song of your country, Olivia.
Oh. Nope. Is it a Star Spangled Banner? I don't know. I think that is it. I'm not 100%.
Like Sweet Home Alabama, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, wait, I got one for you. Yeah.
That was, yeah, wow. That was pretty cool. Or any serious, we're gonna take these last 5 minutes very seriously. So if anybody has any serious questions for us to be, I just feel like, you know, we could have taken this more seriously. We could be more serious. And if there's something that I want to impart to people through these conversations, it's that seriousness is the most important thing. It's important to take everything really seriously. So
yeah, since everything is the cosmic joke, you can start asking as king. So when you start as king, you challenge authority. You have to ask questions. Challenge your way of thinking. Asking as king.
Asking,
but as king. Questions.
Okay.
You on a quest? Quest.
How do you stay motivated with art making? How do you do it, Olivia? Blows my mind.
How do I stay motivated?
How do you do it? How do you stay motivated with art making?
Motivation. Part of just like having a balanced, keeping balance in my life allows for that creative flow to happen. So if you don't see a lot, I mean, I'm producing a lot, but that's not online. That's just on my computer that I just haven't released. I'm very picky about what I share.
I think that a wise person would say that it's not about motivation, but it's about building a habit where you stay disciplined.
Yeah, discipline
it
is
becomes
everything.
integrated into your life. But the truth is that I have built my narrow thread of self-esteem on my artwork, so I need to keep doing it. Otherwise, like my whole persona and self-esteem would just crumble. So that's how I stay motivated with making art.
Do you ever get up and just like dance sometimes and like whatever music you're playing, you like harness in that energy through your movements, and then your whole body is charged by that, and then you sit down and then you create an art piece from all of that expression, that feeling from that kinetic art. Sometimes I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Sometimes again, the kinetic arts is another form of my art form. So we go symbiotic, hand in hand.
I remember meeting this girl here a few years ago that was doing these like live dance art pieces where she would put herself into this room, this like small room with white walls, and she would dance and just not intend to create something really specifically visual. She would dance with like paintbrushes and paints, and that was her artwork. The artwork was like a byproduct of the dance.
Oh, that's cool.
It was pretty cool. Didn't really look that cool, but I like the idea.
Yeah. Yeah, dancing is, I don't know, key for me with that movement, energy flowing. Because, you know, when you're sitting down
Yeah,
in an
movement
art piece,
is really important.
your body gets kind of like stagnant in that position and it becomes all mind. So if you connect your mind body, then it helps me with that like balance aspect. I remember when I was on panel at Moksha Arts Fair, and you know, there's Allison, Alex, and Chris and Brandon Boyd. He was the only one conversating with me because it was like I was like, this is supposed to be a panel discussion. Everyone's just like this this input, and we're supposed to discuss. But we got into the discussion when they were talking about like inspiration. I was like, I like dancing. But we were talking about dance and music and trance. Um, he's like, Brandon was like, he's like, I don't really dance. He's like, I'm not really a good dancer, but he's, as a musician, making the music and witnessing people dancing to his music and going into these altered states and trance. Um, yeah, I guess that, that would probably be a good, but you know, it's just like the trance of the dance, I guess, that kind of like puts you in that altered state on an
They should
emotional
have.
level.
It's like they should try to invent a kind of music for that or something. Like they could call it like psytrance or something like that.
Oh, sorry, trance. You mean trance music? Okay, for me, like some of the strongest one is just straight like shamanic drumming.
It's true.
Because it goes with the heartbeat, and once you start to activate that like channel, it's like opens up everything.
But yeah, it's like I've gotten into some pretty awesome painting flows, dancing, while live painting. Sometimes the ideas that come from that place are the most. Yeah, they're like the best, and they came about through no prior mental conception whatsoever. Like that's how I used to attack live painting. Now I'm careful about it. Now I want to create something that impresses people or something. So I'm more calculated about what I'm creating. But I used to just like mob up to a festival with a blank canvas and just go for it. And sometimes it was really shitty, but sometimes those pieces would end up being these very liberated expressions that I never would have been able to come up with in my studio if I was thinking about it too much.
Yeah, that's the beauty of live art. And get you into that mode of just like pure expression because you're like fully in the moment and you're immersed with the music, the dancing, everyone there.
Ideally, yeah. I feel like when I started becoming more recognized for my art, it's like I started putting more pressure on it because I wanted to maintain some kind of like name for myself. But when I first started doing festivals and I first started live painting, just being a total nobody in the corner, and there was no pressure around it. And so the work that came through was like very authentic.
Yeah. Uh,
We have a minute 45 seconds left.
uh,
Any closing words?
any closing words? Anyone watching? Or well, wait, this is gonna be posted, right? So I guess
Yeah,
anyone watching this later. Anyways, create. You are the creator. Create.
yeah.
We're all born creators.
This was fun. Yeah, this was a fun conversation, and I appreciate your time. And I'm gonna go to sleep. It's 2 in the morning now. And
Oh
yeah,
wow.
for the
Okay.
11 or 12 people that totally stuck it through the whole 3 hour marathon, thank you so much for being our deepest and most adoring fans. We do it all for you. Do it all for the love of these 11 people that are our 11 true fans. Everybody else just pretends to like us and like our art, but you guys, you're the true fan base. Yeah. All right. Much love, Olivia. Thank you for
Thank you for having me.
coming on. This was fun and silly, and we covered a lot of interesting territory. Let's do this again sometime.
Yeah.
Yep. So we did it, guys. That was another episode of the Quarantine Sessions podcast. I am the host. My name is Jake Cobrin. I want to thank you again for tuning in and listening to this episode, and I hope that this was a valuable experience for you. If you're interested, you can watch these podcasts live on Instagram. I am doing between 3 and 4 live podcasts per week. And if you want to find that, my Instagram account is _.cobrin._, just for aesthetic embellishment. And please subscribe to this podcast so that you can be notified of further episodes. And that's about it. Many blessings to you wherever you might be. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Be well.